Have you ever had a moment where your entire world shifted in an instant? 1 second, you're just a regular guy going through the motions, and the next, you're standing on the precipice of something life-changing, only to have it ripped away before you can even grasp it. Dot. That was me, Dot. My name is Mark Watson. I was 38 years old, recently divorced, and managing a small grocery store in Atlanta. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. I wasn't the type to take risks or dream big. I liked knowing where my next paycheck was coming from. Stability was everything after Jennifer left. She had made it painfully clear that my lack of ambition had been part of the reason she walked away. "You're too content, Mark," she had said. "I need more than just getting by." Maybe that's why I bought the lottery ticket. It wasn't something I did often, just a spur-of-the-moment decision when I was grabbing some groceries after work. I paid for my food, noticed the lottery machine by the counter, and thought, why not? I had some spare change in my pocket, so I handed it over and took the ticket without even looking at the numbers. I didn't think about it again until days later, when I turned on the evening news. A lucky winner in our very own Atlanta suburb has struck gold with the latest lottery jackpot. The anchor announced, her voice brimming with excitement. And folks, it's a life-changing sum, $12.50 million. My heart jumped. I had completely forgotten about my ticket. I scrambled to my desk, where I usually tossed my receipts and loose papers. My fingers sifted through old bills, grocery lists, and junk mail. But the ticket wasn't there. I checked the kitchen, the pockets of my jeans, even the trash can. Nothing. A slow, gnawing unease settled in my stomach. I was sure I had put it on my desk. I remembered coming home that night, tossing my keys and wallet down, the ticket right next to them. Had I misplaced it? Or... The memory hit me like a gut punch. Tom Henley was my neighbor. We weren't close, but we exchanged nods when we passed each other. He was the kind of guy who always had a beer in hand, and a story about how life had screwed him over. He worked in construction, but jobs weren't steady. I knew he struggled with money. A few days ago he had stopped by unannounced, claiming he needed to borrow some sugar. I let him in. We chatted for a few minutes, and then he left. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now a cold realization crept over me. He had been in my house, right next to my desk. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the news again, and that's when I saw it. Tom's face, beaming, standing in front of a giant lottery check. Dot. My blood ran cold. I felt like I was underwater, my thoughts sluggish and disoriented. Tom won? No, that was impossible. He had never mentioned buying a ticket. And yet, there he was, shaking hands with the lottery officials, cameras flashing around him. A lump formed in my throat as I rewound the news clip. His words echoed through my head. Man, I can't believe it. This is the luckiest day of my life. Rage bubbled beneath my skin. That was my ticket. I knew it. I had no proof, but deep in my gut, I knew what had happened. I stormed out of my house and crossed the street to Tom's place. My fist pounded on his door, and after what felt like an eternity, he opened it. He was still wearing the same smug grin from the news. "Beer in hand. Mark?" he said, pretending to be surprised. "What's up?" I didn't waste time. "You stole my ticket." His expression didn't change. If anything, his smirk grew wider. "What are you talking about? You came into my house the other day. My lottery ticket was on my desk. Now suddenly you're a millionaire?" My voice trembled with fury. "Give me back my money." He let out a low chuckle. "Mark, buddy, do you hear yourself? You sound crazy." I clenched my fists. "You know damn well it was mine." "Do you have proof?" he asked, tilting his head mockingly. "Because as far as I know, the ticket was in my hand when I cashed it in." My stomach twisted. I had nothing. No photo of the ticket. No receipt. Nothing tying it to me. Tom took a slow sip of his beer, then leaned in slightly. "Face it, man. You lost. Life's not fair. Maybe next time. Keep better track of your stuff." My jaw tightened. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to wipe that smirk off his face. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. The ticket was gone, and with it, my chance at a different life, Dot. But I wasn't going to let this go. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking with frustration. If Tom thought he could get away with this, he was dead wrong. I didn't have proof yet, but I was going to find a way to make him pay. I just didn't realize that, in trying to take back what was mine, I was about to lose something even bigger, Dot. Because exactly 1 week later, the police knocked on my door. And they weren't here to help me, Dot. The knock at my door sent a jolt of panic through me. I wasn't expecting anyone. My mind raced. Was this about Tom? Had he finally cracked and decided to confess? But the moment I opened the door and saw 2 uniformed officers standing there, I knew something was wrong. "Mark Watson?" One of them asked, his tone all business. "Yes?" "We need to talk. Can we come in?" A lump formed in my throat. "What's this about?" The taller officer, a middle-aged man with a tired expression, exchanged a glance with his partner before saying, "We've received a report against you." "A report?" My stomach twisted. "From who?" They didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, heavy with implication. And then it hit me like a punch to the gut. "Tom." I stepped back, letting them inside. My mind was a storm. What the hell had he done? "We received a complaint that you've been harassing Thomas Henley," the officer continued. "He claims you've been making threats, demanding money, and even attempted to break into his house." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "That's insane." The second officer, a younger guy who looked barely out of the academy, flipped through a notepad. "Mr. Henley provided statements from 2 witnesses who claim they saw you outside his home late at night." "Witnesses?" I scoffed. "He's lying. I never threatened him. I never tried to break in." The older officer sighed. "Mark, look. I don't know what's going on between you 2, but this is serious. We need you to come down to the station for questioning." My blood ran cold. "You're arresting me." "Not yet," he said. "But if you refuse to cooperate, that could change." I knew I had no choice. If I resisted, it would only make me look guilty. I grabbed my jacket, my mind still struggling to process what was happening. Tom had stolen my ticket. And now he was trying to destroy me. As they led me outside, I glanced across the street. There he was, standing in his front yard, arms crossed, smirking. He didn't even try to hide it, Dot. He had already won the money. But that wasn't enough. He wanted to bury me, Dot. And for the first time, real fear gripped my chest. Because I had no proof, no witnesses on my side. Tom had set me up. And I was walking right into his trap, Dot. The ride to the station was a blur. My mind was racing, flipping through every possible scenario. What was Tom playing at? Was this just about silencing me, or was there something worse coming? At the station, they took me into a small, gray-walled interrogation room. No cuffs, no aggressive questioning, just 2 officers sitting across from me, treating me like a mild nuisance rather than a serious suspect. That was the only silver lining. "Tell us about your history with Thomas Henley," the older cop, Officer Grant, said, flipping open his notepad. I took a deep breath. "We've been neighbors for years. Never had any issues until last week." Grant nodded, motioning for me to continue. I clenched my fists. I bought a lottery ticket. I had it in my house. Tom came over that day. After he left, the ticket was gone. Next thing I know, he's on the news, claiming he won. The younger officer, Martinez, scoffed. "So you think he stole it?" "I know he did," I said, my voice tightening. "But I don't have proof, and now he's making up this nonsense to make me look like the bad guy." Grant sighed. Here's the problem, Mark. Henley filed a police report saying you've been harassing him. His statement is backed by 2 witnesses, his friends. They claim you've been lurking around his house, making threats, even tried to break in. I gritted my teeth. That's a lie. Can you prove that? I exhaled sharply. I was at home every night, alone. Grant leaned back. Then it's your word against theirs. I swallowed hard. Tom had covered his bases. He had his witnesses. I had nothing. Martinez tapped his pen on the desk. Tell me, Mark, do you have any history of aggression? Any conflicts with neighbors before this? No. You ever threaten Henley? Never. Grant exchanged a look with Martinez before closing his notepad. Look, Mark, we don't have enough to arrest you, but Henley's filed for a restraining order. If you go near him, his property, or even mention him in any way that can be considered harassment, you could be looking at criminal charges. My jaw clenched. You believe him? We believe there's a dispute, but legally he has witnesses, and you don't. That puts you in a bad spot. I felt rage bubbling inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Losing it now would only make things worse. You're free to go, Grant said, standing up, but I'd strongly advise you to stay away from Henley. I pushed myself out of the chair, my mind burning. Tom hadn't just stolen my money. He was making sure I couldn't fight back, and if I didn't figure out a way to turn the tables, he'd get away with everything. I walked out of that station feeling like the world had turned against me. Tom had done more than steal my ticket. He'd taken my credibility, my reputation, and any chance I had of fighting back. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking with frustration. The first thing I saw was Tom's house across the street. The lights were on. A few cars were parked outside, probably the same witnesses who had backed up his lie. They were laughing, drinking, celebrating. Celebrating my money. I forced myself to look away. Charging over there wouldn't solve anything. I needed a plan. I spent the rest of the night searching online. I looked up everything I could about lottery fraud, legal disputes, anything that might help. But the truth was, without solid proof, I had nothing. The lottery company only recognized the holder of the ticket. Without a name on the back, it was legally Tom's. But there was one thing that kept gnawing at me. Greed makes people careless. Tom had been smart so far, but he wasn't the kind of man who could resist flaunting his win. If he had done anything shady, if there was even one mistake, I had to find it. The next morning I called a lawyer. I needed real advice, not just internet research. But as soon as I explained my situation, he let out a heavy sigh. Mark, I won't sugarcoat this. Unless you have video footage of him taking the ticket, or a signed statement admitting he stole it, you don't have a legal case. There has to be something, I said, gripping the phone tighter. He hesitated. If he forged something, say a signature on a claim form, that could be fraud. But proving that isn't easy. The lottery office doesn't just hand over paperwork to random people. I exhaled. And if I could get proof, then you'd have a case. But tread carefully. If you start poking around, he might double down. I hung up, my heart hammering. Proof. That was my way in. Tom had stolen my ticket. But had he done everything by the book? I needed to find out. And if there was even a single crack in his story, I was going to break it wide open. I spent the next few days watching, waiting, and digging. If Tom had made a mistake, I had to find it. The problem was, I couldn't just march into the lottery office and demand to see his paperwork. But there were other ways to get information. The first step? The media. Ever. Since Tom's big win, reporters had been all over him. There were interviews, social media posts, even video clips of him celebrating with an oversized check. I scoured every article, every second of footage, looking for something, anything, that didn't add up. And then I found it. It was a short video, just a casual clip posted by a local news station. In the background, Tom was laughing, holding a beer surrounded by his friends. But it wasn't what he said that caught my attention. It was what was on the table behind him. A stack of papers. Lottery claim forms. And one of them had writing on it. I paused the video, my pulse racing. The angle wasn't great, but I could make out some of the text. It was a signature line, and something about it felt off. I zoomed in, screenshotting the image. It was blurry, but I could just barely make out a scrawl at the bottom. A signature that wasn't Tom's. My mind started spinning. If Tom had forged a signature, if he'd faked any part of the claim, then I had a way to fight back. But I needed more. That meant going to someone who could help me dig deeper. And I knew just the person. The next day, I drove downtown to meet with an old friend, Ethan, a guy I hadn't spoken to in years. Back in college, he had been the tech genius of our group, always hacking into things just to see if he could. Now, he worked in cybersecurity. I didn't waste time. I showed him the screenshot, explained the situation, and waited for his reaction. Ethan whistled. Damn, this guy's got some balls. No kidding. But do you think you can clean this up? Make the signature clearer? He leaned back, rubbing his chin. I can try. But even if I make it legible, what's your plan? If it's not Tom's signature, then someone else signed it. Maybe he paid someone off. Maybe he forged my name. Either way, it's fraud. Ethan nodded. Give me a day. I left his apartment feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope Tom had played his game well. But if he'd slipped up, even once, I was going to bury him. The next 24 hours crawled by. I barely slept, barely ate. My whole life had been turned upside down because of Tom, and now, for the first time, I felt like I had a real shot at proving the truth. Ethan finally called me the next afternoon. Meet me at my place, he said. I've got something you need to see. I didn't waste a second. When I got there, he had his laptop open, the screenshot pulled up on his screen. The blurry signature I had found was now crystal clear, and the moment I saw it, my stomach twisted into knots. It wasn't Tom's signature. It was mine. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. This is impossible, I whispered. Ethan glanced at me. You recognize it, right? I nodded slowly, my mind racing. That's my signature, but I never signed anything. Then he forged it, Ethan said. And that's your golden ticket, man. Forging a signature on an official claim form. That's fraud. That's a felony. My hands clenched into fists. Tom hadn't just stolen my money. He'd actually pretended to be me to do it. And now, I finally had proof. I turned to Ethan. Can you find out when this document was processed? Like the exact time and date? Ethan smirked. Already ahead of you. He clicked a few keys, pulling up another screen. This image came from a news broadcast, right? Well, that station archives their footage. I found the full clip. In one of the shots, you can see the date on the form. He zoomed in again. Tom submitted this claim 3 days after you bought the ticket. I exhaled sharply. That lined up exactly with when the ticket went missing. This is it, I murmured. This is what I need. Ethan nodded. So what's the plan? I grabbed my phone. I'm taking this to a lawyer, then the lottery office. And if that doesn't work, I'll take it to the media. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I was back in control. Tom had played dirty. But now, it was my turn. I wasted no time. With the evidence in hand, I drove straight to my lawyer's office. My pulse pounded as I stepped inside, But this time, I wasn't just a desperate man grasping at straws. I had proof. My lawyer, David, glanced at the printed screenshots and the analysis Ethan had done. His expression shifted from skepticism to something sharper. Interest. "This changes things," he muttered, flipping through the documents. "If this really is your signature and you never signed that claim form, then Tom committed fraud, and the lottery office has to take that seriously." I leaned forward. "So what do we do?" David tapped a pen against the desk. "First, we get a forensic expert to confirm that the signature is forged. That'll give us something airtight. Then we go to the Lottery Commission and present our findings. If they confirm fraud, the winnings will be frozen. Tom won't be able to touch a dime until this is sorted out." A slow, cold satisfaction settled in my chest. "And what about the police?" David's lips curled into a knowing smile. "Oh, they'll be very interested. If Tom faked your signature, that's criminal fraud. We're talking potential jail time." I sat back, exhaling. Finally, Tom thought he had won. He thought he had all the power. But now the walls were closing in on him. The forensic analysis took 2 days. I barely slept, running on pure adrenaline. Then David called. "It's official. The signature was forged." I gripped the phone tighter. "What's next?" "We take this to the lottery office now. Meet me there in an hour." I had never driven so fast in my life. When I arrived, David was already waiting, a folder tucked under his arm. Together we walked into the Lottery Commission's headquarters. The receptionist greeted us politely, but the moment we mentioned fraud and forged claim, everything changed. We were quickly ushered into a back office, where a middle-aged woman in a gray suit sat behind a desk. Her nameplate read, "Angela Carson, head of claims." David laid out the evidence. The screenshots, the forensic report, the timeline of events. He spoke calmly, professionally, but I could see it in Angela's face, the moment she realized how serious this was. She folded her hands. "You're saying Tom Henley forged your signature to claim the winnings?" "Yes," I said firmly. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "This is a mess." I leaned forward. "Can you freeze the payout?" Angela hesitated. "Normally, once winnings are claimed, they're final, but if there's clear fraud, we have procedures." She glanced at David. "I'll have our legal team review this. If they agree, the funds will be locked." "Do it fast," David urged. "Tom's already spending that money." Angela nodded. "Give me 24 hours. That was all I needed to hear. Tom had stolen my money. He had lied, cheated, and framed me for a crime I didn't commit. But now, his luck was running out. The next day was agonizing. I checked my phone every few minutes, waiting for an update from David. I imagined Tom sitting in his brand new house, celebrating with champagne, completely unaware that his world was about to crash down. Finally, just after noon, my phone buzzed. David's voice was sharp, almost triumphant. "They froze the money." I exhaled, gripping the edge of my kitchen counter. "All of it. Every last cent. Tom can't touch a dime." Relief surged through me, but it was quickly replaced by something colder. This wasn't over. Freezing the money was just the first step. I wanted justice. "What about the police?" I asked. David's tone darkened. "That's next. I sent everything to the fraud division this morning. If they move fast, Tom's in real trouble." I swallowed hard. After everything he'd done to me, I wanted to see him answer for it. I wanted him to feel the same helplessness I had felt when I was the one being accused. But I also knew Tom. He wouldn't go down without a fight. That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find 2 detectives standing on my porch. "Mr. Watson?" the taller one asked. I nodded. "I'm Detective Harris," he said, flashing his badge. "This is Detective Monroe. We need to talk about Tom Henley." I stepped aside, letting them in. Do you have enough to arrest him? Harris exhaled. We're working on it. The evidence your lawyer provided is strong. Forging a signature on a legal document? That's serious. But we need more. Something that directly ties him to stealing the ticket. Frustration flared in my chest. I know he stole it. What else do you need? Monroe folded her arms. We need physical proof that the ticket was in your possession before it ended up with him. A receipt, surveillance footage, something. I clenched my jaw. I had nothing like that. The store didn't keep security footage that long, and I hadn't taken a picture of the ticket. Harris studied me. You said Tom was in your house the day it went missing, right? Yes. Then maybe there's another way. If he stole it, he had to get rid of anything linking it back to you. People get sloppy when they think they've won. Monroe nodded. Do you know if he still has the clothes he wore that day? Any personal belongings that could have traces of the ticket? I frowned. He bought all new stuff after the win. Clothes, furniture, everything. Harris tapped his chin. Then maybe he left something behind. If we can place that ticket in his possession before he claimed it, we have him. I thought for a moment. Then my stomach clenched. His garage. Tom was a hoarder. He might have trashed his old clothes and furniture, but his garage? That was a disaster zone. I looked up at the detectives. I think I know where to look. The next morning, a warrant was issued. By noon, police officers were swarming Tom's house. I stood on the sidewalk, heart pounding, as they forced open the garage. Tom came storming out of his house, red-faced and livid. What the hell is going on? Harris barely glanced at him. We have a warrant to search your property. Tom turned to me, his eyes filled with something almost feral. You think this will change anything? You have nothing on me. I didn't say a word. I just watched. And then I found something, an officer called out. We all turned. The officer stepped out of the garage, holding a crumpled, yellowed lottery ticket receipt. My receipt. With my credit card number printed right on it. Tom's face drained of color. And in that moment, I knew. It was over. Tom's mouth opened, then closed. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. I could see the wheels turning in his head, the desperate attempt to find a way out of this. But there was none. The officer who found the receipt handed it to Detective Harris. He studied it for a moment before looking up at Tom. This was crumpled up in your garage. It's dated the same day Mark says he bought the ticket. And it was paid for with his credit card. Tom's nostrils flared. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe he threw it away and it blew into my yard. Maybe he's setting me up. Detective Monroe scoffed. Right. Because lottery receipts just magically appear in someone else's garage? Tom took a step back, his eyes darting between the detectives and me. I could see it. The moment he realized there was no way to talk his way out of this. Mr. Henley, Harris said, his voice calm but firm. We're placing you under arrest for fraud, theft, and forgery. The color drained from Tom's face. You can't. This is insane. I won that money fair and square. Then why forge the signature? Monroe shot back. Tom's mouth snapped shut. The officers moved in. I watched, my heart pounding, as they cuffed his hands behind his back. As they led him to the squad car, he finally turned to me. His face twisted with rage. You think you've won, he hissed. You think this makes you better than me? You're still a loser, Mark. You'll always be a loser. I met his glare, feeling nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just emptiness. He had stolen from me, lied, tried to destroy me. And now he was finally facing the consequences. But I wasn't happy. Just tired. The squad car door slammed shut. The sirens wailed as they drove him away. And just like that, it was over. The news spread fast. By that evening, every local station was covering the story. Lottery winner arrested for fraud. Shocking twist in multi-million-dollar scandal. It went viral. People who had once admired Tom's lucky break now saw him for what he really was, a thief. I should have felt triumphant, but the truth hit me like a brick when David called later that night. "We have a problem." I rubbed my temples. "What now?" The Lottery Commission made their decision. His voice was grim. Because the ticket was claimed fraudulently, they're invalidating it. My stomach dropped. What? They're refusing to reassign the winnings to you. Since Tom claimed it under false pretenses, the entire claim is void. No one gets the money. I stared at the wall, trying to process his words after everything, after fighting to expose the truth, after proving the ticket was mine. I still wouldn't get a cent. "But that's not fair," I whispered. David sighed. "I know, but their policy is clear. If a claim is fraudulent, the winnings don't go to the rightful owner. They just disappear." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. Tom was going to prison. But I wasn't going to be a millionaire. I wasn't even going to break even. I had won the fight, but lost the war, For days, I struggled to accept it. I had dreamed of what that money could do. How it could change my life, now, I was right back where I started, But then, something unexpected happened. People had followed my story. They felt my frustration, my injustice, and someone started a crowdfunding campaign for me. At first, I ignored it, Then I saw the donations pouring in, hundreds of thousands of people, strangers, giving what they could. Some sent messages of support. Others shared their own stories of betrayal and injustice, And when it was all said and done, the campaign raised over $300. 000, no comma. It wasn't millions, But it was a fresh start. I wasn't bitter anymore. I had lost the money, But I had won something bigger, justice, And sometimes that's enough. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered the final verdict. Guilty. The word echoed through the room, sealing Tom Henley's fate. He sat stiffly at the defendant's table, his face drained of all arrogance, his hands gripping the edges of his chair, as if it were the only thing keeping him from collapsing. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times. The moment justice would finally catch up to him, The evidence was overwhelming. The forged signature, the security footage, the receipt he thought he had destroyed. The jury had deliberated for less than 2 hours before returning their decision. The judge adjusted her glasses, looking down at Tom with a mixture of disappointment and disgust. "Mr. Henley, you not only committed fraud, but you did so with blatant greed and disregard for the truth. You attempted to ruin an innocent man's life, and you showed no remorse. For your crimes, this court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole before serving at least 6. A murmur spread through the room. I felt my fingers tighten around the wooden railing in front of me. 8 years. Not a life sentence, but enough. Enough to strip him of everything he had stolen. Tom's lawyer whispered something in his ear, but he didn't react. He just stared ahead, his jaw clenched, his entire body trembling with the realization that he had lost But I wasn't done watching him fall. The judge cleared her throat. "Additionally, the state will seize all assets acquired from fraudulent gains. Mr. Henley, that means the house, the vehicles, and the remaining money from the lottery will be forfeited immediately." Tom whipped his head toward her, his mask of composure finally cracking. "You can't do that. That's my money." The judge barely acknowledged him. "You stole that money, Mr. Henley. It was never yours." I exhaled slowly. The millions were gone, but at least Tom wouldn't see a cent of it. No lavish lifestyle, no comfort in his ill-gotten wealth. He had risked everything for greed. And now, he had nothing. Jennifer sat in the back of the courtroom, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. She had distanced herself from Tom the moment his arrest hit the news. I had heard rumors that she had tried to convince him to share the money with her, that she had even helped him fabricate some of the lies about me. But now, as Tom's world crumbled, she remained stone-faced, unmoved. A part of me wanted to see her beg for forgiveness, to see regret in her eyes. But I realized something, She wasn't worth it. Tom's attorney stood, his expression tight. "Your Honor, my client is done talking," the judge interrupted. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. It was over, The bailiffs moved in, gripping Tom by the arms. He fought at first, struggling, his voice rising in panic. "You can't do this! I won that ticket! I won!" He turned toward me, his eyes burning with fury. "This isn't over, Mark. You think this is justice. You think you're better than me?" I met his glare with absolute calm. "No, Tom," I said, my voice steady. "I just didn't have to steal to get ahead." The words hit him like a slap. He stopped struggling. His face twisted, but there was no comeback. No more lies. No more manipulation. He had lost. And I had won. A week later, I stood outside my small suburban house, watching as Tom's belongings were packed into a moving truck. The state had seized his home, and the bank had wasted no time in reclaiming what was left. A few reporters lingered nearby, trying to catch a final comment from me, but I had nothing more to say. I had already said enough. Jennifer approached me later that evening. She looked different, tired, worn down. "I had no idea what he did," she said. I gave her a long, measured look. "Sure you didn't?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in years, she had nothing to manipulate, no angle to play. "I made a mistake," she admitted. "Yeah," I said, turning away. "You did." She waited, as if expecting me to say something more, to ask her back, to offer some kind of closure. I didn't. I closed the door in her face, That was all the closure I needed. A month passed. Then life moved forward. The news cycle forgot about Tom, but I didn't. Every once in a while I'd check the prison logs, just to remind myself that he was still there, that justice had been served. One night, I received a letter. No return address. I opened it cautiously, unfolding the single sheet of paper. You think you won, but one day karma will come for you too. No signature. I chuckled. Karma ? I folded the letter neatly and tossed it into the fireplace. Karma had already done its job.